Another morning, another traffic jam, another crappy day. You sit in your car, gripping the steering wheel like it's the only thing you can control. Your jaw tightens. You mutter under your breath, "I hate this job. My boss is useless. Why does everything always go wrong for me?" You're not yelling. You're tired. This isn't rage. It's something quieter, heavier, a quiet, daily resignation. But let me ask you something. Have you ever actually changed anything by complaining? Or are you just hoping that by repeating your frustration often enough, life will finally feel different? Here's the trap. We think complaining helps. We think it's a release, that it clears the emotional pressure. We say things like, "I just need to get this off my chest. I'm just being honest. It's good to vent." But what if it isn't healing? What if it's just another habit, one that keeps you stuck? Because most complaints aren't action plans. They're not solutions. They're rehearsals of powerlessness. Say it once, it feels cathartic. Say it twice, it starts becoming part of your script. Say it for years, and it becomes your identity. You become the guy who always blames his coworkers, the woman who always says she's tired, the friend who always has a reason why nothing ever works out. And in today's culture, that mindset is everywhere. Group chats that revolve around venting, memes that normalize being chronically overwhelmed, a culture that bonds over shared misery instead of shared growth. Complaining becomes connection, but it's a cheap kind of connection, one that costs you your self-respect. You don't feel more powerful when you complain. You feel more bitter, more stuck, more helpless. And maybe you didn't mean to end up here. But if you're honest, you've been circling the same problems for months, maybe years. So here's the truth. You don't hate your life. You hate how passive you've become in it. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, lived over 2,000 years ago. But they understood something that modern life still struggles with. Complaining is a form of self-abandonment. When you complain, you're handing your power over to things you can't control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste the rest of your life arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, stop talking about the problem. Start embodying the solution. Epictetus taught his students to focus on a single line of separation. What's in my control? What isn't? Traffic? Not in your control. Your boss's attitude? Not in your control. But your response? Your effort? Your discipline? Your breath? Your values? Those are always yours. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." To the Stoics, adversity isn't a punishment, it's an invitation. Every challenge is a test. Will you react with emotion or respond with reason? And that's the core idea here. Complaining is emotional. Action is rational. The Stoic doesn't ignore problems. He just refuses to waste time whining about them. He observes. He accepts, and then he gets to work. So now the question becomes, if complaining doesn't work, if Stoicism tells us to stop reacting and start responding, then how do we actually do that? How do you shift from being the person who vents to the person who moves? Let's break it down one step at a time. So, how do we actually change? How do we shift from being the person who complains to the person who moves forward? It begins with awareness. Most people don't even realize how much they complain. It becomes automatic, a background hum in their daily life. Complaining becomes so normalized, it starts to feel like truth, like identity. The first step is to interrupt that pattern, to catch the complaint before it owns you. Start noticing the moments when those same old phrases slip out of your mouth. "This always happens to me. People are so inconsiderate. I can't catch a break. Don't try to suppress them. Don't judge yourself. Just pause and ask quietly, am I saying this to solve something or just to feel better about not solving it? This one question can stop years of unconscious thinking in their tracks. Try this. For just one day, write down every complaint you hear yourself make, even if it's only in your head. At the end of the day, read that list. Ask yourself, are these thoughts helping me move, or just helping me feel momentarily validated? The second step is perspective. The Stoics were clear. Some things are in our control, some things are not. And suffering begins when we confuse the two. When we complain, it's often because we're focused on what we can't control: someone else's attitude, the weather, the news, the traffic, while ignoring the things we absolutely can control: our words, our effort, our time, our responses. When something frustrates you, stop and ask, is this mine to fix or mine to release? You might not be able to change the external event, but you can always choose your internal response. That's where strength begins, not in trying to control the world, but in mastering your own reaction to it. Finally, the third step is the most important. Do something. Don't just stop the complaint, replace it, transmute it into movement. If you find yourself thinking, I'm so tired of feeling this way, ask instead, what would 5 minutes of effort look like right now? Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's turning your phone off. Maybe it's simply breathing, resetting your posture, and making a single decision with clarity instead of emotion. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real. Because every time you choose action over complaint, no matter how small, you're rewiring who you are. You're no longer someone reacting to life. You're someone building it. At the end of each day, ask yourself a new kind of question. Not, what went wrong? But, did I complain? Or did I contribute? Did I whine? Or did I walk forward? The answer to that repeated, refined, and lived becomes the difference between a life stuck on repeat and a life in motion. In 2006, Dutch speed skater Mark Tutet was at the top of his game, or so it seemed. He had been training for years with a single goal: Olympic gold. But life, as it often does, had other plans. An injury set him back. His team situation changed. Everything felt like it was falling apart. And like many of us would in that moment, he started to spiral. He complained about his coaches, about bad luck, about the unfairness of it all. He was angry, bitter, exhausted. For a time, he truly believed the dream was slipping away, not because of what he did, but because of what others had done to him. But then something shifted. He discovered the writings of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who had led through plague, war, and betrayal, and yet somehow maintained a deep, unshakable calm. One line from Meditations hit him hard. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. For Tutet, that realization was a turning point. He couldn't control his injury. He couldn't undo the past. But he could decide how he showed up today. He could train not with resentment, but with focus. He could rest not with guilt, but with intention. He could rebuild not from a place of complaint, but from a place of clarity. 4 years later, in the 2010 Winter Olympics, he stood on the podium with a gold medal around his neck. Not because the world got easier, but because he got stronger. He stopped complaining, and he started choosing. That's what Stoicism does. Not by making you invincible, but by making you unshakable. Complaining feels good in the moment, but it costs you more than you think. It drains your energy. It clouds your mind. And worst of all, it convinces you that you're helpless. The Stoics knew better. They taught us that strength begins the moment we stop asking life to be easy and start asking ourselves to be better. So here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, no complaints. not out loud, not in your head. Every time the urge to complain shows up, pause, breathe, and ask, what can I do instead? Take that first small action, and then take the next. Build your life not from frustration, but from focus. And if this message spoke to something inside you, leave a comment. What's one thing you've been complaining about, and how will you act on it today? We're not here to be victims of life. We're here to master it quietly, daily, relentlessly.